Namaskar. Myself, Dr. Pramod Kumar Gupta. 1 minute. There is a problem. Namaskar, my dear friends. Myself, Dr. Pramod Kumar Gupta. I am inviting Dr. S.K. Tyagi sir for today's program. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Take two. So I also welcome all the participants to the day 3, and we will be discussing item analysis today. So I straight away go to my presentation by sharing screen. So we are doing item analysis in SPSS. I presume that you know certain things about item analysis. You know what is item, you know what is a research tool, you know what is a scale, you know what is a test. Now, certain minimum notion I am presuming because I'm not starting from scratch. Now, what I will be discussing in the today's presentation is one is item analysis, the purpose of item analysis, where do we use item analysis. Then we will come to item analysis using SPSS. Then, especially, we will be seeing how item discrimination is calculated using variety of approaches like finding discrimination index or comparing the upper ability and lower ability groups using t-test, comparing the proportion of right responses using chi-square test. These are the three different approaches which we will be using. Next, we will be taking up item difficulty, how to find out item difficulty in SPSS. And lastly, reliability statistics, reliability analysis with SPSS. And we will be discussing two reliability coefficients, which are very popularly used, most widely used, Cronbach alpha coefficient and split half reliability coefficient. So these are the agenda points. So I now come to the first agenda point, item analysis. Item analysis. Item, as Dr. Gupta was requesting in the beginning, that I should tell something about development of the tool. So item analysis is used in the process of development of the tool. It is used in the development of research tool like a scale, Likert type scale, or a test. Now, item analysis is performed when we are ready with the initial draft of the items. Suppose we want 40 items. Item means questions, statements, no, depending upon whether your tool is a scale or a test. Suppose you want 40 items in your final version of the tool. Then initially you will begin with larger number of larger pool of items, say almost at least 1.5 times of the final which you are planning 40. So 1.5 times of 40 is 60. So you will make at least 60. If it is more than 60, well and good. 1.5 times to twice items, because certain items will be rejected. Therefore, you must make greater number of items than you expect in the final version. So when do we perform item analysis? We perform item analysis when our initial draft is prepared and we have completed even the small sample tryout or scrutiny, that is completed. Now we want item analysis statistics so that we make decision about which item to have in the scale or test and which item need improvement or modification. So the purpose of item analysis is to empirically examine. One is you can examine the items logically, rationally. you can look into the item and see whether it conveys meaning, whether it is grammatically appropriate, and etc. Second is to see whether it is empirically what is the quality of the item. You have to administer it on a sample of subjects to find out the empirical indicators of quality of items. So this process will help you to identify superior items, good quality items, and inferior items, mediocre items, or worst items. So basically, you will make 3 decisions whether to have this item in the final version, or to discard this item, or to make certain changes in the item so that it becomes a better item. So purpose is threefold: selection, revision, or discarding the inferior item. Item analysis, we use 2 indicators of item analysis. One is discrimination index, another is difficulty value. In some tools like test, we have both, but in scales, there is no sense of having difficulty value because items are not correct or incorrect. No, they are strongly agree, fully agree to maximum extent, etc. So we can't say that this particular response is correct and another response is incorrect. So difficulty is out of question. We may find out discrimination index. Then item analysis leads to the final draft of the items. So after item analysis, once we have made item analysis, we will arrive at the final draft, because items now have been selected, some items have been discarded, some items have been revised. Now we are up with the final version, say consisting of 40, 41, 42 items. Now is a stage to find the reliability coefficient. Split half reliability, test retest reliability, or Cronbach alpha reliability. Now, let us come to the 2 indicators of item analysis, two statistical indicators. One is item discrimination. So let us understand, although I believe you have some notion of item discrimination, but for the beginners, let me start with basic things. Item discrimination, what does it mean? Item discrimination means an item will be called discriminating if the item is answered correctly by the students in the upper ability bracket and related to the lower ability group. See, we have an item, a question. If this question is answered correctly by the upper ability group in greater extent than the lower ability group, then this item discriminates well. So it is simple. Discrimination index is right responses in the upper ability group minus right responses in the lower ability group. Now this definition holds good for test where we have a sense of right and wrong response. So right response is in the upper ability group minus right responses in the lower ability group divided by the responses in the either group. That is, in other words, symbolically, discrimination index is RU. RU means right response in the upper group minus RL, right response in the lower group, divided by M. It is the proportion of right responses in the 2 ability groups, relative in the upper ability group relative to lower ability group. Now, one question is pertinent here. What is upper ability group or lower ability group? Upper or lower ability group is constituted by the top and bottom 27% of the respondents on the total test score. Suppose there are 40 items, so on 40 items, individual will have total number of score. Say out of 40, some will have 40, second will have 37, third may have 35, fourth may have 10, fifth may have 27, and so on. So arrange them in descending order. And the top 27% will constitute the upper ability group. The bottom 27% will constitute the lower ability group. Okay. Now, some experts, they say 25%. So there is a difference of opinion. Some say the upper and lower ability groups are constituted by 27% of the sample. Others take it as 25%. Not much difference. Now, interpretation and item selection. How to interpret? Once you get the discrimination index, then how to interpret it? So discrimination index will range between -1 and +1. First of all, let you appreciate this, that discrimination index is is equal to right response in the upper group minus right response in the lower group divided by n, where n is the 27% in either group. Suppose total sample is 100. So the upper ability group constitutes 27 students, lower ability group constitute 27 students. Middle 46 are discarded. So this n is, what is this n? 27. Now suppose right response in the upper group are 27, right response in the lower group, there is none. Then discrimination index is 27 minus 0 divided by 27, that is +1. So this item discriminates perfectly. Everyone in the upper ability group is doing it correctly. Everyone in the lower group is doing it incorrectly. So it is perfectly discriminating between these two groups. Now let us see another situation where this is reverse. Right response in the upper ability group is 0 and right response in the lower ability group is 27. So this is -1. Now this is a very strange situation that none of the student who is a high achiever is able to score, is able to do this correctly, but everyone in the lower group is doing it correctly. So there is something wrong with the item. Either the item is ambiguous, vague, or there may be several reasons, but this is not a happy situation. But conceptually, mathematically, it can happen. Although practically, it will never happen. Okay, so this is +1 and -1. Therefore, discrimination index will range between -1 to +1. Okay, the first thing that we note with regard to discrimination index is that it varies from -1 to +1. Now, when are you is equal to RL, that is the number of correct response in the upper group and number of correct response in the lower group is same, then discrimination index will be 0. So it is not able to discriminate at all. Suppose in this particular situation, there are 12 students answering item correctly, 12 students in the lower group answering correctly. So 12 minus 12 divided by 27 is 0. So this item does not discriminate at all. Okay, so if RU is greater than RL, so you will have value, positive value. RU is greater than RL, this is greater than this. RU is less than RL, you will have negative value. RU is equal to RL, you will have zero value. Now we want positive values. We don't want zero value or negative value, because in these two situations, either the item does not discriminate at all, or it discriminates in the reverse order. No, it should not discriminate negatively. So this is what is written here. Discrimination index ranges between -1 and +1. And we interpret like this: if discrimination index is at least 0.2, if it is minimum 0.2, then we take item to discriminate well, and we have it we select it for the final version. But if the item discrimination is between 0 to 0.2, so this item is discriminating very poorly, very less item discrimination is there. We can either reject the item or modify the item. On what ground should we decide whether to reject the item or modify? Suppose there are only a very less number of items being rejected, so we can reject the item. Suppose this item is indispensable, this is testing something which no other item is testing, then we will perhaps modify it. But if the item is discriminating negatively, then it is seriously defective item. Therefore, it should be rejected prima facie. But under certain situations, you may also modify it drastically to suit your purpose. So when we want to select good items, we calculate discrimination index, and on the basis of discrimination index, which will range from -1 to +1, if the discrimination index for some item is greater than 0.2, then we select it. If it is between these two, then we either reject it or modify it. If it is less than then, either reject it, most of probability will be to reject it, but you can also modify it. Now, how to calculate this discrimination index, particularly in SPSS? So discrimination index in SPSS is our next agenda point. What are the steps? Steps are like this. Number one, we enter the data in SPSS by defining variable as item 1, item 2, and so on. Say item 50, 60, 50 or 60. This will go up to the number of items which we are analyzing. Then, secondly, if a respondent answers the item correctly, enter a score of 1. Normally, when an objective type question is asked, then you give it a score of 1 or give it a score of 0 if answer is wrong. Now find sum of all the scores. Now you need not count these scores and sum up, but you can do it through SPSS by using the compute command under transform option. I will tell you how, demonstrate you how. Then once we have the total scores, then what we do, we arrange them in descending order. The maximum score on the top and lowest score on the bottom. This can also be again done using SPSS. So we will use the command sort cases under data option of SPSS. Then you find what is 27% of n. Suppose your sample size is 20. So 27% is 5.4 or roughly 5. Now you calculate what is 27% of the sample size. If your sample size is 200, 27% will be 54. So top to 54 will be upper group, bottom 54 will be lower group. Rest of the cases are ignored. Then label top 5 scores as group 1 or group 2 and bottom 5 as group another group, ignoring the rest of the case. Name this new variable as ability group. Now I will demonstrate this whole procedure by taking an example in SPSS. So this is illustrative example. Data, I will also show data entry in SPSS and how to work with. Suppose there are 10 items in it. Because I want to illustrate you, I will be taking just a small sample of test items as well as small sample size. So I am taking only 10 items. Next, I am taking only 20 students. No, normally it will not be 20, it will be 100, 150, 200. A score of 1 is awarded for right response and 0 for wrong response. Now again, each of the upper and lower ability group, 27% of 25 students, middle 10 are ignored. Now this is how we will do. Okay. Now let me show you through. Let me go to SPSS and show you how to do this.
Sir, there is a question. If you will permit me, I want to raise it. एक question है sir.
हाँ, आवाज नहीं आ रही बिल्कुल. Not at all.
Okay, हम 27% ही क्यों लेते हैं?
अब ये मैंने बोला ना, देखिए 27% इसलिए लेते हैं नॉर्मल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन के हिसाब से. ये एम्पिरिकली लोगों ने फाइंड आउट किया कि इससे ऊपर मतलब हमें देखना है. वी हैव टू से कि विच इज द लाइन ऑफ डिमार्केशन. ओके, so they empirically researched and found out that 25% is optimization number. So use 27%. Yeah, these are very pet questions. Why do we, sir, why do we take only 0.01 and 0.05? Very often asked question, 0.01 and 0.05. There is no such answer which can 100% convince you. 0.01 and 0.05 because it is a convention. We tolerate 5% error. Similarly here, researchers have reached at this conclusion empirically that 27% will be optimum between the discrimination. Say if we are in the middle, so that is a blurring line. It is difficult. It does not discriminate well. So we are looking for some line where to draw line, and this the researchers they have empirically found out 27% serves well.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I am 101% convinced.
Ji, okay, sir. So now I am going to tell you how to enter the data and how to perform this discrimination index. Now, suppose we have 10 items. I told you we have 10 items. So define these 10 items as variable. So my 10 variables will be item 1. First item is item 1. Second is item 2. So I define this item 2. Third is item 3. Fourth, item 4. Item 5. Item 6. Item 7. Item 8. Item 9 and item 10. Okay, this is my scale or test of 10 items, 10 questions, multiple choice questions. Okay, now come to data view. Now there are 20 students. This is first student. this particular student will answer this item either correctly or incorrectly. Suppose he answers this correctly. So I enter 1. Then go to the next. One way is we enter data like this. Student number 1, item 1, correct. Item 2, correct. But this will take more time. Okay. Suppose first person does the item 9 items correctly, but 10th wrongly. Okay. This is how we enter the data. This is student number 1, Dr. Pramod Kumar Gupta. His answer to item number 1 is correct. Item 2 is correct. 1, 3, 1, 4, 1. Item 10, he is incorrectly answering. So these are the 10 responses. Now we can enter these responses. We can enter these responses vertically also. So 1, 1, 1, 1, everybody is answering correctly. Then 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. It is easy to. Item 1, okay. First person has answered correctly, second, third, fourth, up to 7, then incorrectly, then correctly, then incorrectly. So this way, I am randomly entering the data so that it takes minimum time. 20 students answering a test of 10. So I am randomly entering data 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. Zero, 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 1, 1, 1, 1. 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1. Item 8, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. This is how we will enter the data from their answer sheet. You just check where you have put sign of right. Sorry, there it is 1. If it is wrong, it is 0. So the data is entered. Now we are ready to take further steps. Further, we want to constitute the upper ability group and the lower ability group. Upper ability group and lower ability group is decided on the basis of total score on this particular test. So we have to find out the total score. The total score is to be found out using this transform compute and sum. Sum means total. Now there are two ways. One is item 1, take item 1 here, plus item 2, plus item 3, plus item 4, plus item 5, plus item 6, plus item 7, plus 8, plus 9, and plus 10. So I have defined a new variable which will appear in this data sheet. The name of the variable is sum, and sum means sum of all the items, the sum of score on all the items. So I click OK. It says compute sum. This is the order I have given, item 1 plus item 2. So it has computed. Now go to data sheet and find the variable here. Okay. Now you can change this nominal. Otherwise, okay, we need not waste time. Sum is this. Now we will arrange these, okay, so that we are able to calculate the top 27% is 3 and bottom 27, no, sorry, 25. See, first of all, let me arrange them in descending order. So this can be done by going to data and sort cases. Sort means arrange in order. Sort case, sort by which? Sort by sum. I am ordering this. Here maximum score is 8. Okay, minimum is 3. So if I sort them, so it will arrange them in descending order. Okay, by this variable sum. So I select here descending. I could have kept it ascending also. There is no problem. This is okay. So it has done sorted cases. Find it in the data table. The maximum is 9. Maximum is 9. Then 8, 7, 7, 7, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 5, 5, 5. Now the 27% of 20 is 5.4. That is, these are the top 5. This is top 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now label them as 2. 2 means upper group. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So this is the upper group. Now come to the lower group. Lower 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. These are the 5 students which comprise the lower ability group. These are the 5 students which comprise the upper ability group. These rest of these middle scores, they are ignored. Now just name them. Name this variable ability group. Okay. What I did, I gave space between ability and group. It does not accept the space. So we simply call it group. Groups. Okay. Come to the data view. Now we have performed this task of what is upper ability group, what is lower ability group. What do we do next? Next, we find out how to calculate the discrimination index. Now for this, what do we do? Actually, we do not have a provision for discrimination index directly. So we have to little perform this indirectly, bit indirectly. So I am performing this for another data because this is small data. Computation of discrimination index using SPSS example. So I will be calculating just for three items to show you how to calculate. This is a actual data sheet. In fact, there are 50 questions, objective type questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 50. This is question number 50. This one is total, and this is group. Group is, this is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, what is 1, what is 2? 2 is smaller group, 1 is the larger group. 1 is the upper group, 2 is the smaller group. That should be clear, because 14 is the maximum score. No, 18 is the maximum score. 18, 18, 17, 17, 16. Okay. So how to calculate? So I have calculated for 3 to illustrate question number 1, question number 4, and question number 2. Because in we get positive in another, negative in third, 0. Now let us see how this was calculated. Question 1, 2, and 4. So going to the data. No, I have, in fact, I have closed the data which I wanted to use. This one. Now question number 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. Similarly, we can find out for all the 50 questions. So what we do, we go to analyze. Okay. Then descriptive statistics and cross tabulation. Cross tabulation. Here we, in row, we put question number 1, question number 2, and question number 4. And in column, we put the groups. Just click OK. So we get this type of table. This gives you cross tabulation. This is 2 by 2 cross tabulation. This is group, upper group, lower group. And this is incorrect response, correct response. Acha. Okay. 13 is the number in the upper ability group. Similarly, 13 is the total number of students in the lower ability group. And combined is 26. Out of 50, 26 are comprised of the upper and lower ability group. Middle 24% are discarded. Now let us see question number 1. Number of right response in the upper group. 1 is right response. Number of right response in the upper group is 5. Number of right response in the lower group is 1. Okay, so RU is 5, R1 is 1. And discrimination index is 4 divided by 13. Now come to question number 2. Right response in the upper group is 2. Right response in the lower group is 4. So it's a negative discrimination. 2 minus 4 is minus 2 divided by 13. So this is negative discrimination situation which should not appear. Question number 4. Right response in the upper group 3. Right response in the lower group 3. So this is a situation for no discrimination at all. This was just to show you. Otherwise, if you want to calculate for every 50, So you select all these 50. It will be bigger table, very difficult to take in the PPT. Therefore, I chose to have a small number, 50. All 50 are selected. Group, okay, we are at wrong place. Analyze, descriptive, cross tab. Reset. Okay, question number 1 to question number 50. And groups. Okay. So we will have 50 tables. 50 tables at all. Question number 1 to question number 50. So from these we can calculate the discrimination index. Now, SPSS is not giving you this discrimination index up to the last point directly. Okay, there is a question. Okay. Now there is a question, and a good question at that. Sir, if responses collect from range from 1 to 5, then the procedure will be same. Here, how could you judge what is right and what is wrong response? Now, as I made it clear in the beginning, that it is for the in the context of the test, because in the context of scale there is no positive, there is no correct or incorrect response. So this particular definition does not hold good in case of a scale. In case of scale, there is a different approach. We will discriminate between the two upper ability and lower ability groups, and we will discriminate on the basis of by testing significance of is there any significant difference in the score between the upper ability group and the lower ability group. Upper ability group will constitute the total score on that particular scale. Suppose first student, okay, let me come to the data. Now the data will consist of question number 1, 3, 2, 5, like this. Okay, 1 says strongly agree, 5. 2 says disagree, 2. So 1 to 5. The answer, scores will be 1 to 5, between 1 to 5. But there is a sense in which we can find out the total score, and the person having total score is placed higher in that scale than person who is having low score. So yes, sir. अच्छा अच्छा, नहीं मैं खुद ही देख लूंगा ना, आप चिंता मत करो, आप अपनी तबीयत का ध्यान रखो ना. Now it was Dr. Pramod Gupta is not feeling well, so he said you take care of. I will join at 4:30 last, na? Okay, so no problem. So Pooja Kumari, is it clear? Pooja Kumari, there is no issue. This definition in the particular sense does not hold good for a scale, but there is a sense in which we can perform this process of finding out discrimination index. Process is same. Let us come to this another approach, the significance approach. Then you will be able to see that this is applicable in a scale. Now this is computation of discrimination index using SPSS. Example I have taken question number 1, question number 4, and question number 2. Now next is how to write its interpretation. So we calculate this. Table 1 shows frequency of right and wrong responses to question number 1 in the upper and lower ability brackets. Is that okay? it can be seen that out of 13 responses in all, number of correct responses in the upper and lower groups are respectively 5 and 1. Thus, the question number 1 discriminates between the upper and lower ability groups. Discrimination index is 5 minus 1 divided by 13 is equal to 4 divided by 13, that is 0.31, which is greater than 0.2. Therefore, this item should be retained in the test. We can make a table starting from question number 1 to question number 50. Give in one column have question number, item number. In second column you can have the discrimination index. In the third column you can have the decision whether to select or modify or reject. Further, question number 4 does not discriminate. Discrimination index is 3 minus 3 divided by 13. SPSS gives you, helps you to reach at this data, this figure. Right response in the upper group, right response in the lower group. Then you have to simply take one step further and find out the difference divided by total number of students in either group. Now this is 0. So therefore this should be either modified or rejected. Question number 2 is discriminating negatively. As right response in the upper group is less than the right response in the lower group. Therefore, discrimination index is in the negative. Therefore, you should most probably reject this item. So this is how we find discrimination index in case of test. Now, there is another approach for discrimination index, and this approach applies to scale as well. Scale as well. This applies to test as well as scale. So for test, there are two approaches. One is finding out discrimination index. Another is discriminating between the upper and the lower ability group on that particular item. Now I will be discussing this second approach, item discrimination t-test approach. Now this is useful for scales or tests having more than 2 data points. As Pooja Kumari correctly observed that this particular approach may not be appropriate for scale because there is no right and wrong response in on a particular statement. You have 5-point scale, so you can your response can vary from 1 to 5. Now this is the approach which will help you in finding whether this particular item discriminates or not without going into right and wrong response. Now test the difference between the mean score of upper. This is again in the context of test. Test the difference between mean score of the upper and lower ability group on the item. See, there is an item, okay. Upper ability group has scores on this particular item. Lower ability group has some scores on this particular item. You can compare their means, and if this mean is significant, then this item is discriminating item. But before interpreting t value, the result of Levin's test of homogeneity of variance are checked. T-test gives you 2 types of results. One is whether the variances are equal, variances of score in the upper ability group, variances of the score in the lower ability group, whether they are equal. And secondly, whether the mean difference is significant or not. So you have to interpret both. If the assumption holds good, when t-values corresponding to homogeneity of variance assumed is interpreted. Now this you will learn after you go through the output. Else homogeneity of variance is not assumed option is interpreted. Negatively discriminating items are discarded, and there are as many t-tests as there are items in the test or scale. Now see what is this item discrimination working example. Same example, item analysis of an achievement test having 50 items with sample size 50. This you have already seen. And now we are calculating, we are upper intelligence group has 13 students, lower intelligence has 13 students. We have already seen. Sort out cases already done. Create a new variable group and denote one as upper ability group and two as this we have already done. Compare mean item score 41 to 45. I have taken just 5 for sample. Okay, now I will be doing it. How to do it? See, I think this is already open. I am demonstrating or illustrating this approach for question number 41 to 45. So let us see how does this approach work. Okay, there is another question. Let me check it. Yes, sir. Achha, no question. She agrees. Okay. Now analyze. Compare means. Compare means we are discussing the second approach. Whether the upper ability group and lower ability group is there is a significant difference between these two groups or not on this particular item. So compare means an independent t-test. Item 41 to 45 I am taking as a sample, not all, because I have copied this output and pasted in my presentation. So 41 to 45. Okay, and grouping variable. Grouping variable is the group, the upper and the lower ability group. So bring this here, grouping variable. Now this asks question, so you have to define groups. Groups are, our groups are 1 and 2. So we have to tell the system that our groups are coded 1 as 2 and 1 and 2. You could have coded 0 and 1. You could have coded 5 and 7. So you have to specify that what are your codes for the two groups. Code for the one group is 1, upper group is 1, code for the lower group is 2. And then just OK. So this is the output. First table gives you question number 41, upper group mean is 0.0769, lower group mean is 0.069. Now I am going to the presentation part. First of all, let me discuss this table. This table I have presented here, group statistic. Question number 41. Now on this particular item, the mean maximum score, mean could be 1, lowest mean could have been 0. Why? Because if everyone response was 1, the mean would have been 1. If everyone response would have been 0, mean would be 0. But in this particular case, the upper group, 13 students comprising of the upper group, their mean score on the item is 0.0769. Also, the mean score is same 0.0769. Therefore, since there is no difference in the mean score, therefore item 41 is not discriminating at all. Now let us come to question number 42. Mean of upper group is greater than mean of the second group. Mean of the upper group is 0.6154. Mean of the lower group is 0.0769. There is a huge difference between these two. Probably this question number 42 is discriminating and discriminating well. See this, the difference we are observing. We are just making guesses. Just making guess. Question 42 discriminates. Question 41 does not discriminate. Let us come to question 43. Now, mean of upper group is this much, mean of lower group is this much. There is a difference, but I don't know whether difference is significant or not. Maybe, may not be. Question number 44, mean of upper group is 0, lower group is, this is negative discrimination. This question should be rejected. Question 45, point just reverse of this, upper group this, lower group this. So this looks like well discriminating item. So 42 and 45, we are perfectly sure that they will discriminate well. Question 43 is doubtful, it may discriminate, it may not discriminate. No, let us see whether what are the results of t-test. Now let us go to result of t-test. First of all, let us see the output here. This is the output. Now this output comprises two parts. First part is Levin's test of equality of variance. Second part is t-test for equality of mean. So actually, those of you who already know what is independent test, they must be knowing that one of the assumption underlying t-test is that the variances should be equal. Variances of the scores in the two groups should be equal. And this particular part of the table, this test, this first assumption. But even if the variances are not equal, then also we can go ahead, but we have to make some modifications, some adjustments. So if this is the line equal variance assumed, if variances are equal, we consult this t-value, this t-value. If variances are not equal, we consult this t-value. This is the difference. And how to find out whether this variance of equal variance assumption holds good or not? This depends on this significance value. Because this is greater than 0.05, therefore it is not significant. Therefore, we will use the first line. This is significant. Now variances are not equal. We will use the second line. Third, variances are not equal. We will use the second row. Variances is not equal. We will use the second row. Variances is not equal. We will use the second row. So this tells you whether to use the first row or the second row. So I have consolidated it in the form of this table. This is my t-value. In question number 1, t-value is 0. As we observed, there is no significant and no difference in the mean. Therefore, difference between mean is 0, t-value is also 0. And this significance value is 1 because it is greater than 0.05. Therefore, it is not significant. Therefore, it rejects the item. Reject or at the most modify. So this item does not discriminate. Okay. Item 42. The t-value is 3.363. Significance value is this much, which is less than the alpha level. Therefore, this is a very good item. We should select this item. Question number 43. T-value is this much. Now, we were not sure whether it is significant or not. It is significant at 0.05 level because this p-value is less than this. Less or equal is significant. The S is significant. Therefore, select the item. Significant means, yes, this significantly discriminates between the two groups. 44. This is -1. So the t-value is negative. Therefore, reject the item. It is negatively discriminating. 45 is a positive discrimination. And okay, no, it does not discriminate. 0.337. 45 question is not discriminating. This is not discriminate, reject. So this is how we interpret the t-values and take a decision. Now let us see how do we write the interpolation. Table 4 gives the item mean score of the upper and the lower group. Table 4. The mean score of the upper and lower groups on item 41 is each 0.769. Thus, it is clear that the item 41 does not discriminate at all. The mean score of the upper and lower group on item 44 are respectively 0.3077 and 0.0000. The difference in mean item score may or may not be significant. We are not sure. The difference in the, we are just interpreting, making guesses from the means, which I have told. The difference in the mean item score of two groups on item 43 is, however, minus 0.769. So there are chances of it being negatively discriminating. The output of t-test will confirm the above inferences. And now t-test can be seen from table 5 that t-values for question 41, 44 and 45 are not significant at 0.05 level of significance because each p-value is greater than 0.05. Therefore, these questions do not discriminate between the upper and the lower groups. Question 42 discriminates significantly at 0.01 level because t-value is this much, p-value is this much, which is less than alpha level of 0.01. Question 43 also discriminates, but at 0.05 level. T-value D is T is this much. 42 and 43 shall be included in the final draft, while 41, 44 and 45 will be either discarded or revised. This is how we use this second approach. We did not calculate discrimination index in this particular approach, but we found t-value between these two. But there is an objection with regard to this approach by some people, and the objection is this. Now, this t-test approach for objective test is not recommended by some people as the data violates interval scale assumption, because the question response to a particular question is either 0 or 1. Okay, there is nothing between 0 and 1. Answer cannot be half correct, half incorrect. This is an objective type question. Either it is correct or incorrect, right or wrong. Therefore, how you are using t-test in a situation where you have just binary response 0 and 1. This is the objection raised by some people. Now, the data of Likert scale satisfies interval scale assumption because the data of Likert scale is from this point to this point. Although there are 5 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but still there is assumed continuity between 1 to 5. We can have 7-point scale, we can have 9-point scale, 11-point scale, we can have semantic differential. Here it is 0 and it is 100. You can rate this anywhere. Therefore, in a scale, this works well. There is no objection to this approach if we apply it in the context of the scale. But in the context of test, some people, they object to this approach. Hence, this approach works well for item analysis of a Likert scale. Item discrimination index may be used for objective test for the first approach. Alternatively, chi-square test may be used to test the significance of difference between two proportions. There is one more approach in case of objective type test, because there is a binary response, either 1 or 2 or 0 or 1. Therefore, we can use chi-square test. Now I will demonstrate this approach. Let us see how to use this chi-square approach in the context of item number 42. So I go to the data. The data is already open, same data. Analyze chi-square. Analyze descriptive statistics, cross tabulation. We already saw cross tabulation. And now we want question 42. We want to see whether this question number 42 discriminates well or not. So we put question 42 in row and group in column. Okay, then we will get the table which we already got also. Now you go to statistics and check chi-square test. Continue and okay. See, this is the cross tabulation which we also used in case of calculating discrimination index. But suppose we choose not to use that approach, we want to test the significance of difference between these two groups, but not mean scores, but the proportions. Proportion of right response in the upper group is 8/13. Proportion of the right response in lower group is 1/13. Is there a significant difference in these two proportions? This is tested by chi-square. Now this is chi-square value. Okay, chi-square value is 8.327 and the p-value is this. This is significant. But here two cell have expected count less than 5. The minimum expected count is 4.5. There is an assumption of chi-square test we will study in detail tomorrow. So in this particular case, we will not use chi-square, but we will use Fisher exact probability test. And the two-tailed value is 0.011. And this is significant. That is, the proportion of right response in the upper group is significantly greater than the proportion of the right response in the lower group. That means this particular item is discriminating. Finish. You need not calculate. You need not calculate the discrimination index and see whether it goes beyond 0.2 or not. This is another approach. Now let us see how do we write the results of this approach. Frequency of right response in the two groups. So I demonstrated how to get this table ability group into question number 42 cross tabulation. Next, this is the result of chi-square test and other associated tests. Now I am writing interpretation. The footnote to table 7 reveals that 50% cells have expected frequency less than 5. Therefore, it violates the minimum frequency assumption of chi-square. One of the assumptions of chi-square is that if there is a 2/2 table, each expected frequency should be at least 5. So we are violating this. In this case, we can use Fisher exact test. So p-value of chi-square test will not be reliable. Instead, the exact p-value of the Fisher test will be interpreted. The result of Fisher test are significant at 0.05 level of significance because exact p-value is 0.011. It does not give the test value. It gives you directly the significance value, which is 0.011. It is at the verge of 0.01, but it is less than 0.05, therefore significant. Hence, the null hypothesis that there is no significant difference in the ratio of correct response in the upper group and lower group is rejected. Now this is we are testing. Therefore, Further, table 6 shows that number of correct response in the upper group is 8, which is significantly greater than the lower group. Therefore, item number 42 positively and significantly discriminates between the two groups. So this is alternative approach. We can use chi-square test in case of. Now, although my data relates to test, but the scale data does not forbid us to use this approach. I mean the first approach. Scale data can also be analyzed using the same approach. Not this chi-square approach, but t-test approach. T-test, a chi-square approach is for objective type items where only two responses are possible. One is right or another is wrong. Not for scale. This is regarding discrimination index. Now let me come to another index, that is difficulty value. So we come to difficulty value. This again applies to test only, where items are such that there is a correct response and there is an incorrect response. So meaning of item difficulty is the extent to which the item is answered correctly by the group. And it is very simple. Difficulty value is correct response to an item divided by total response. So R divided by N. So it does not refer to upper or lower ability group, because we are not discussing discrimination. We are discussing as a whole how this question is answered by subjects. So if this is answered by all, okay, then R is equal to N. Right response is equal to N. So dV is equal to 1. Difficulty value is 1. If none answer is, if R is 0, so difficulty value is 0 divided by N, that is 0. So difficulty value range is from 0 to 1. Higher the difficulty value, this is higher, this is lower. Higher the difficulty value, lower the difficulty. Because highest difficulty value can be 1. Difficulty value can be from 0 to 1. 1 is most easy. 0 is most difficult. The difficulty 1 is greater in difficulty. Yes, this is easy. Yes, meaning is just reverse. And interpretation. Now, item discrimination plays greater role in selection of the item. Why? Because the item difficulty is acceptable, but whatever it is. But with this condition, most of the items, almost half of the items should have difficulty value between 0.25 to 0.75. Or some people say 0.3 to 0.8 simply. 0.3 to 0.8. But almost 25% of the questions can be below this. 25% of the questions can be above this. So this is broad range. Now, how to find out difficulty value using SPSS? So, say question number 41 to 50, we will be calculating difficulty value. This we can get directly using SPSS, but the name will be different. I will tell you how. So let me go to this data. I go to the data, same data, and question number 41 to 50, 5 questions. Now, this is how we calculate difficulty value in SPSS. For this, we have to go to scale, analyze, okay, scale, reliability analysis. Now here put the items. If you want to calculate difficulty value of all the item, So we can put all the item here. But because my presentation includes 41 to 45 only, so let me have these. Okay. So we want to calculate difficulty value of each the item. Now go to statistics. And this is item. Okay. Continue. Okay. Okay. See this table. Item statistics. Question 41. Mean of the question 41 is 0.06. 42 is 0.32. 43 is 0.10. This actually is the difficulty value. Mean of the item is difficulty value. Why? It is simple because this is the table. Item mean statistics as item difficulty. The mean of the item is nothing but item difficulty. How? So to explain you this, let me go to this table. And how did you get this table? We go to descriptive. Analyze descriptive frequency. Okay, question number. What was this question number? 42, 41. So I am selecting question number 41 here. Okay, and just doing okay. So I get this table. This table tells you that on question number 1, 47 are 0. 0 response is 47, frequency is 47, 1 response, frequency is 3. 1 response is correct, 0 response is incorrect. So right responses are 3, wrong responses are 47. Okay, so 3 out of 50 is 0.6, that is the mean, 0.6, 0.06. See, this is the table. Okay. Question number 1, 50 students are answering question number 1 and is 50. 47, 0 response is given by 47 students. 1 response is given by 3 students. Is that all right? So when we calculate mean, the mean is 3. What is the sum of score? Sigma x upon n. Sum of score is 3. Rest of them are 0. So 3 divided by total number of score 50. So this comes out to be 0.06. And this is what is difficulty value. Difficulty value is right response divided by total response. Right response is 3. Total response is 50. Sample size. Therefore, our mean on this item is 0.06. And this is nothing but difficulty value. Is that clear? So difficulty value is very easy to find out using this particular. Now only one thing remains, and that is finding out reliability statistics. I have already told you how to interpret difficulty value. Now we come to the reliability analysis. Means finding out the reliability coefficient. Now tool reliability, meaning and type. Once we have arrived at the final version of the tool, test or scale, then we give it to a large sample to find out the reliability statistics. So meaning of the test reliability is, as you all know, might be knowing, the extent to which a tool gives consistent results. and this represents reliability is nothing but true variance. There are two types of variance, true variance and error variance. So the total variance comprises of true variance, which corresponds to reliability, error variance, which corresponds to fluctuations, chance. So these are the measures of test reliability. One is test retest reliability. It is nothing but correlation coefficient between test and retest scores. You give a test to a sample, then after 15 days or 10 days or 20 days, you once again give that test to the same subject and you find out correlation. This is nothing but test reliability. Difficulty with this problem, this approach is that people who were present in the first administration may not be there in the second administration. The second administration results may be affected by many factors, by memory and forgetting, by any other, by history of the subjects. So this is fraught with many difficulties. Another is test of internal consistency. This is Cronbach alpha. This is average inter-item correlation. There is a correlation between item 1 and 2, item 1 and 3, item 1 and 4, item 1 and 5 and all. So if you think of some average score of all the inter-item correlations, the coefficient which you get is known as Cronbach alpha. Then next is one is split half reliability. It breaks the test into two parts, part 1 and part 2. It takes the first half of the items as part 1, second half of the item as part 2, and find out the correlation between them. And then using this formula, Spearman-Brown prophecy formula, that correlation is 2R, 2 into R divided by 1 plus R. This is coefficient of split half correlation coefficient, because there are two parts. So this formula is 2R, 1 plus 2 minus 1 into R, 1 plus R. So, but you need not worry, SPSS will calculate and give you Cronbach alpha. You have to interpret it. You must know how to interpret it. This is average inter-item correlation, and this is a relationship between the two halves. So how to find out this in SPSS? This is again quite simple. We go to the data. And now let me show you how to calculate reliability coefficient. So we go to analyze scale, reliability analysis, and we want to find out the reliability of the whole test. We can also find out the reliability whole of the scale, whole entire scale. We can find out the reliability of subscales. We can also find out reliability of subtests. Suppose item 1, item 2, item 3, odd number items, they form 1. So then we can calculate reliability. Analyze scale reliability analysis. Reset. I am selecting all 50 questions. Okay. And taking them here. And this automatic selection is alpha. This is Cronbach alpha. So if I want Cronbach alpha, I will get this Cronbach alpha. So the number of cases is 50, and the value of Cronbach alpha is 0.546. Number of items is 50. Because the reliability coefficient depends on the number of items. As number of items increase, reliability increases. Therefore, it is pertinent to give number of items also. Now, how to interpret this? The interpretation of this is, thumb rule for this is, any value near 0.7 is acceptable. Now this 0.546 is a bit low, but this is just thumb rule. Values 0.7 or more are considered to be reliable in case of test or scale. Now let us see how to find out the split half reliability. There is one more statistics which is quite useful. Analyze scale. Once again, I'm performing reliability analysis. Now look at this statistics. So you just check the scale if item deleted. Scale if item deleted, and let us see what do you get. Or else you can check all these three: item, scale, scale if item deleted. And we get this table. This is item statistics, which I discussed in the context of item difficulty. These are the mean score of item. Then see, this is interesting statistics. Question number 1, scale mean if item deleted, scale variance if this item is deleted, corrected item total correlation, or Cronbach alpha if item deleted. So this is giving you an insight into whether this question number 1, how far acceptable is this question number 1. Our total Cronbach alpha is 0.546. Okay. And if we delete these items one by one, then what will be the effect of the total score? Say, what is the maximum score? 0.562. So if we delete question number 40, then we can increase the Cronbach alpha value. Cronbach alpha value will be increased. Question number, there is 0.562. Yeah, 0.5, let us see, 0.561. Yeah, 0.562. Question number 40. So if we delete this question number 40, then it will improve our reliability. So minus, why? Because this item correlates negatively with the total score. Probably if you conduct item discrimination and item difficulty and selection item analysis, this item will be deleted. No, this is not the final version. Actually, this version is the pre-version, pre-final version. So if you delete this item, you get better picture of item, this is scale reliability or test reliability. So this is how we can interpret this particular table. So selected output of the statistics and interpretation. Table 111 reports the total number of cases in the study. Table 12 shows Cronbach alpha of 0.546. The coefficient of reliability is relatively low as it does not reach the acceptable level of 0.7. Table 13 shows effect of each item deletion on the reliability of the overall test. For example, if item 40 is deleted, it will increase the reliability of the test from 546 to 0.562 as the item correlates negatively minus 0.18198 with the test. Unless such item is indispensable for measuring the dimension not assessed by either question, it should be dropped from the test, thereby improving the reliability of the test. This is how the item analysis improves, helps you to improve your scale or test reliability. And finally, it is split half reliability. If you, in this particular option, you can change the option analyze, scale, reliability analysis, and here it was alpha, you may select split half. Okay. So this gives you part 1. Cronbach alpha for part 1 is this much. Cronbach alpha for part 2 is this much. Correlation between part 1 and part 2 is this much, 0.399. Spearman formula is this much. So this is the split half reliability, 0.570. So this is how we calculate the split half. If the number of test item is uneven odd, then it will repeat one item in both the form. Suppose it is 49, then it will have 1 to 25 in the first, and it will include 25 again in the second part, and 25 to 49. So this is all. I think it is time to say thank you all. Now let me see whether there is any question in. No, in question answer there is no question. In chat, let me see. No, there is nothing in the chat. There is a question, sir. I could not understand first and second row. Well, because I assume that you already know what is t-test, and I tried to explain. You can join another program on t-test, then you'll be better able to understand what is line 1 and line 2. To delete, Pooja Kumari is asking, to reach Cronbach alpha at the level of 0.7, can we delete more than one item? Yes, we can delete more than one item. We can delete 10 items, we can delete 5 items. Actually, the version which I was working with was not the version after item selection. This was the version which I used for item analysis. Therefore, there are many items which were dropped in the final version. Okay. You cannot drop item in bulk. Suppose you have already 40 items, so you cannot drop 30 items. Then what will remain? Only 10 items. You cannot work well with 10 items. Is that all right? Any other question? So I think Dr. Gupta may not be present here. So on behalf of Dr. Gupta, in the capacity of being a host also, I thank you all the participants for attending this session, and I expect you to join tomorrow at 3. Thank you all. Sir, what is the range of reliability coefficient for Cronbach alpha? As reliability coefficient, normally reliability coefficient is because it is correlation coefficient. The correlation coefficient can be anything from -1 to 1, but practically it is between 0 to 1. 0 to 1. 1 maximum, 0 minimum. Okay, so thank you all.